season will have the best offense and the best defense. So let's talk about that in this live stream. So obviously, not every single year, but like last year, for example, I believe the Cavs had the best offensive rating in the league, and OKC, who won the title, was probably not far behind. They might have been second or third, like they were obviously up there. And then in terms of defense, I think OKC was number one to finish the year. And then teams like Minnesota and the Warriors, I know were top 10 because it was a big thing. The second half of the season, they had the number one defense with Jimmy. Obviously, they ended up not number one overall, but like that was a big thing. Obviously, we know Minnesota has a really good defense. So they were top 6, 5, I don't know where they were. So anyway, so every year, it can shift based on roster moves and, roster construction. Obviously, someone like the Boston Celtics, who probably had a top 5 offense last year, are probably not going to have a top 5 offense this year because they don't have Jason Tatum. They don't have Porzingis. They don't have Drew Holiday. So you can imagine that their offense is not going to be, what it was last year. So in this live stream, I'm just going to give my opinion, just talk it out with you guys on, teams that I think might have top 5 offense next season and top 5 defenses. So let's start with the offense. So I think it's fair to say that OKC will probably have a top 5 offense. As long as everybody's healthy, there's literally no reason as to why they wouldn't, because they brought everybody back. Same team, Shea, Chet, J-Dub, everybody is back, right? And they should be 1 year, stronger, wiser, better, right? Because they have more experience. They just won a championship. So I think OKC is going to have a top 5 offense next season. Like I said, a team like the Boston Celtics is not going to be there, most likely. A team like the Indiana Pacers, I don't know where they were last year, but they're probably not going to be there either. There's no Tyrese Halliburton. So we can rule those teams out. So other top 5 offenses, I feel like, and this may not be a surprise, I guess, but I feel like the Cavs, as long as they continue exactly what they did last year, similar to OKC, the Cavs should have a top 5 offense too. Like they have all, the talent, the firepower, the three-point shooting, different offensive players. So I think the Cavs, again, if they continue what they did last year, should also be a top 5 offense. So we got OKC, we got the Cavs. I guess I'm making a top 5 prediction here. I don't know, turned into that. In no particular order, unless I decide I want to order it. We got OKC, we got the Cavs. This may surprise some people. This may go against what people think, but I think the Atlanta Hawks will have a top 5 offense next season. I am very high on the Hawks, what they did, getting Porzingis. Jalen Johnson will be back healthy. You would hope that Zachary Ricochet, again, because of my jaw, I can't say his name properly, but you know who I'm talking about. He obviously should be another year better, and he was a top pick for a reason, right? So you would hope that next year he would show more development. I like Onyeka Okongwu. I feel like he's a good fit, as he's always been with Trae Young. And they picked up Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is going to provide three-point shooting for them and stuff like that. So I think the Atlanta Hawks, I think what just happened to my throat? I don't know. I think the Atlanta Hawks should be a top 5 or will be a top 5 offense next season. So we got OKC, we got the Cavs, and we have the Atlanta Hawks. It's really hard because there's so many teams that could be really good offensively. Like top 5 is like a very specific category. I feel like I have to go with another Eastern Conference team and go with the Knicks. And I feel like there's a reason that the Knicks, or rather three Eastern Conference teams, are in my top 5 for offense next season. Like offensive rating I'm talking about. Like I'm just talking about that specific statistic that comes out. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I'm not saying that determines that necessarily someone has a better offense. That is measured by certain things. I'm just saying like the category of offensive rating that they put on all the stats. I feel like there's no reason, the same with the Cavs, that the Knicks should not be a top 5 offense. They got 2 incredible offensive players in Jalen Brunson and Cat. And then obviously Mikal, OG, Josh Hart. They can do things on offense too. And they picked up Jordan Clarkson, so more offense there. Of course, we know Jordan Clarkson's a bucket. Gershon Yabusele should help them on offense. If they get Malik Beasley, I don't know where he's going to go, but potential more offense right there, right? So I feel like the reason that 3 Eastern Conference teams also could be top 5 offenses because we know the East is wide open. And whether it's, fair or not, because when you're in the East, you are going to be playing against these Eastern Conference teams 3-4 times, right? So no offense to, the Charlotte Hornets, but a lot of us don't expect the Charlotte Hornets to be, a top team in the league. And then you have the Pacers and the Celtics who are depleted. So you're getting from those 3 teams. And I'm not saying that like Boston can't win one of those games against the Cavs or the Knicks or nothing like that. But when you have so many opportunities to play against teams that are not looked at as good, I guess, at the current moment compared to some of the teams in the West, that can boost your offensive rating because, again, no disrespect to the Charlotte Hornets, but the Charlotte Hornets only win like 20 games next year and they just, struggle to put points on the board and stuff like that, and they don't have a great defense, whatever it is. Knicks, Cavs, Hawks can put up like 130 on them. Whereas if you go to the West, you play OKC, again, top defense last year. You could put 130, but like, I'm saying like, it'll be a lot harder to get 130 on them. 130 on the Rockets will be hard. Denver, made some good moves. The Clippers are always good on defense. The Warriors are really, really good on defense. The Wolves, like, it's going to be hard to like put up gigantic numbers in the West because every night is going to be tough matchups. That's again, no disrespect to some of the teams in the East. It's just like, they're missing Jason Tatum and Tyrese Haliburton in terms of those 2 teams, the Pacers and the Celtics. So it just is what it is. You have more of an opportunity in that sense because those 2 teams are depleted. So that was 4. And then my 5th offensive team. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I know a lot of people would probably want me to say the Lakers. I'm not willing to go there. I think the Lakers will probably be a top 10 offense. Top 5 though, I'm not there. I'm not sure if I'm there with the Rockets either. I think I'll go Denver against my better judgment. I'm not sure, but I'll go with Denver. I don't know. I just like their offseason moves. I feel like they improved. So I'll go Denver as the other top 5 offensive team. Remember, offensive rating I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, any other category. I'm talking about the specific statistic that you can go on the NBA's website and you look up offensive rating. So those are my top 5. And then quickly, top 5 defenses. I think OKC, again, should be up there as long as everything's the same. So we'll go OKC. I'm going with the Warriors. I talked about it earlier in the live stream. They had the number 1 defense with Jimmy in the second half of the season. It wasn't like a fluke. It was like a large period of time. I think that team is motivated. You got Draymond on defense, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody. So I'll say the Warriors have a top 5 defense. I feel like the West has a lot of good defenses. I feel like it's opposite. Well, okay. The West has a lot of good offenses too, but like I said, the toughness in the West makes it more difficult for the offensive, spectacles, I guess, to show through. I feel like I'm leaning West for like a lot of the defense. I think I'm going to go, I was going to go Clippers. I'll go Clippers. I'll go Clippers have a top 5 defense. I don't know. I just feel like they will. So I'll go Clippers. Also top 5 defense. So that's 3. I know people would probably want me to lean towards the Rockets as a top 5 defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets were a top 5 defense. I would not be surprised. I see them in the top 10. For some reason, I don't know. I don't see them as a top 5 defense next year. Because they could be 6 and be really good. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have to, fall to, 20th. You could still be really good. So I'm not going with the Rockets. Anybody in the East? I guess. See, Minnesota, I'm having a tough time putting them as a top 5 defense. I don't know. Something about them also is same with the Rockets. I don't know. There's something about them, but Minnesota does put it together every year as a top defense. So it's hard for me to say no to them. I'm trying to think what else. Who else could be Oh, hello, the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic are clearly a top 5 defense. I'm so sorry. I forgot about them. The Orlando Magic. Top 5 defense, no question. So that's 4. You know what? I'm going to go 5. Someone in the Eastern Conference also, the Detroit Pistons. I like what they're building over there. They are getting better and better. I like their defense. I like Asor Thompson. Obviously, I'm a fan of Cade and stuff like that. I just like what they're building over there. So I'm going to go with the 2 young teams in the East for top 5 defense in Orlando Magic. I feel like that goes without saying. I feel like there's no questions, at least for me. And I'm going to go with the Detroit Pistons. So these are my top 5 offenses and defenses. I think that will, be in the league next year. And again, for defense, same thing with offense. I'm talking about defensive rating, that category specifically. Somebody said the Knicks rely too much on Brunson. Well, they have a new coach, so obviously the offensive sets will be a bit different that they run. Obviously they'll run, some ISO for Brunson, stuff like that. You want him in the clutch to have the ball in his hands because he is clutch player of the year. But they'll definitely run some things differently with a different coach. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I like the Knicks. I like their roster. I like what they're doing over there. And I believe in Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson, he's proven to be that guy. So thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. I hope you enjoyed and see you soon. Bye.